Okay, where are you guys? They may have given up. You know that?
Yeah.
All right. All right, where's my... Okay. We'll wait for the Marty and Bob, I'm assuming will be coming in. They were. That's what I'm saying. I'm assuming they're going to be coming in. Okay. I assume Bob will be coming in. And so I'm going to start us on the learning sponsors. Maybe Tzvi will be coming in this morning too. I don't know. Year of Learning, friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Asna Bad Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdal, Zecha Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz, memory of her great niece Leah Bracha and Refuah Shlema for Marcy herself. Isaac and Evelyn Blachor, in memory of his sister Chaya Rachel Bas Isser and Refuah Shlema for Isaac and for Evelyn. Friends of Leonie Meiserman, Leah Saber Bas Chanoch Zundel. Guys, you might as well move up. You know, right? A month of 6 feet. Yeah, month of learning. Dov Bloodlander in memory of his father Tzvi Ben Yaakov Yitzchak, his mother Bela Devasha Bas Harav Dov Berish, his father-in-law Yehuda Tzvi Ben David Nachum, and his mother-in-law Alta Chaya Bas Avram Yosef, Malin Haran Haller in memory of his Ruvain. Good. Malin Haran Haller in memory of his father Avram Ben Zev. A week of learning by Michael and Sharon Glass, in memory of his mother Rivka Yita Bat Yitzchak Kohen. We have a day of learning by Fred and Sharon Lisker, in memory of his father Menachem Mendel Ben Yitzchak, by B. Worden in memory of her husband Eliezer Ben Shlomo Halevi, also by B. Worden in memory of his late husband's aunt Chana Bas Avraham. Okay, and we've been mentioning Refuah Shlema. Okay. As we've said, for Moshe Reuben ben Shima Beyatela, Miriam Rivka Bas Bracha, David Aaron Halevi ben Sarah, and Peret Semech ben Yaakov Yitzchak as well. Okay. All right. Okay. Reuven, you okay there?
Why?
Can't hear you. You're...
Yes, I am.
Okay, I thought Zev might come on also on Zoom today too. Okay, all right. I am. What happened to Bob?
He went to the office to get paperwork.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to start on the bottom of 83B 4. Okay, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. That's where I'm going to pick up, okay? And we'll move along the best we can, right? My wife said, oh, maybe you should tell people to come home and we'll do it on Zoom, okay? But this room is protected in case there's any problem. There's no windows.
The worst, I think they said, is past us already.
Oh, we'll see, hopefully. Okay, so Amar Rav Halach, says Rav, Halacha Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. The law is like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, v'lo mita'ameh, but not because of his reasoning. So the Gemara asks, about that, right? Very. My halacha Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel below the matame. What does it mean when it says the law is like Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, but not according to his reasoning? Ilema halacha Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. If we're going to say the law is like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, da amar, and I got to repeat to us again what he said. Da amar im meta yirashena, that once, if and when she dies, the husband, even though he's written this document, I don't want anything to do with your property, etc., 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 right? Lav mitame, but not according to his reasoning. The ilu Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel savar. Why? Because were it such that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel was of the opinion, matna al masha katuba Torah, if one makes a statement that's conditional regarding something that's already written in the Torah, okay, Tana'u batel, then his condition is nullified. It's no good. V'Rav Sava, and Rav is of the opinion, Tana'u kayam, and Rav is of the opinion that his condition is valid. V'Kasavar, why? Because he's of the opinion, Yerushat Habal de Rabbanan, because a husband's right to inherit his wife is a rabbinical and not Torah. V'chachamim asu chizuk l'divreihem yoter mishel Torah. And the sages strengthen their word, okay, even sometimes stronger than Torah. In other words, that the husband's inheritance is not able to be canceled whatsoever. Okay, so we now go on. Now we're up to today's daf pei dalet, right?
So he inherits his.
So he would still inherit. He would
inherit
everything from her. Okay, and that's the reason that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel can say that the husband still inherits under the conditions, even though he said, I don't want anything to do with your property. Okay? And not because his condition is nullified. Right? So we go on now. V'savar Rav Tna'o Kayam. And does Rav really hold that his condition is maintained? Vaha Itmar. But wasn't about this the following said? Ha'omer lechavero. Almanat she'em lach alai hona'ah. One who says to his neighbor, his friend. In other words, he forgoes his right, okay, at this point, okay, to make any complaint about a business deal on the question of fraud. Okay, so he says, Ha'omer lechavero, one who says to his friend, Almanat she'em lecha alai hona'ah. Since you can't make this claim of price fraud, okay, in the situation. Okay, Rav Amar, says Rav, yesh lo alav ona'ah, that he can still make a claim of fraud. Ushmuel Amar, ein lo alav ona'ah. And Shmuel says, no, on this person, he does not have a viable claim of fraud. Ella, rather, says the Gemara, halacha ke Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. The law is like Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. The Amar who says, Hamatna alma shekatu b'Torah, one who makes a statement conditional, okay, in nature that seems an objective in opposition to the Torah. T'na'o batel, his condition is nullified. V'lav metame, but that's not his reasoning. The ilu Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, for were it such that it was Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, savar meta yirashena, he would have been of the opinion that that's the reasoning behind the fact that in our case, when the woman dies, the husband inherits her. Rav savar meta lo yirashena. Rav holds that when she dies, the husband does not inherit her. Okay? Hai mita'amei v'lo ki hilchatehu. So this then is not according to his reasoning, and it's not and the halacha is not according to him either, right? Ella rather, halacha Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, but rather the law is according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, the Amar, who says, Imeta Yerashena, okay, if when she dies, the husband inherits her, Velav mita'ameh, but not according to his reasoning there. The Ilu Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Savar, B'de'oraita Tana'o Batel. Okay, because were it such that we would have to assume that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is of the opinion, okay, that when it's regarding a Torah statement, his condition would be nullified. Ha b'derabbanan, but where his condition is only something that's rabbinic, tana'o kayam, that would imply that his condition would be still valid. V'Rav savar, however, Rav is of the opinion, afilu b'derabbanan tana'o batel, that even in a case of it being rabbinical, his condition is nullified. Hi, kitame ukihilchate, who this is his line of reasoning, and the halacha being like him there. V'Rav mosifu, and Rav basically is not perhaps disagreeing per se, as much as he's adding, okay, to this issue. Ela rather, what do we say? Halacha Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. The law is like Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. The Amar imeta Yerashena, that if and when she dies, okay, the husband still inherits her, I'm going to say. Velav mitame, and it's not for his reasoning elsewhere about the question of the Tanai. The Ilu Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Savar Yerushat Habal deoraita, because in that case we would have to have assumed that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is of the opinion that inheritance on the part of the husband at the death of the wife is Torah mandated. V'chol hamatneh al ma shekatuv b'Torah tana'o batel. And anyone who makes a conditional statement that disagrees with the Torah, his condition is then nullified. V'Rav savar, and Rav then would be of the opinion, Yerushat haba'al b'derabbanan, that inheritance on the part of the husband is rabbinic. V'chachamim asu chizuk l'divreihem k'shel Torah, and that the sages then may strengthen their words as if it was as strong as Torah. Says the Gemara, V'Rav Sava Yerushat Habal D'Rabbanan. Do we really then think that Rav holds that inheritance in that situation on the part of the husband is rabbinic? V'hatnan. But aren't we taught elsewhere in a Mishnah? Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Omer. He says as follows, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Hayoresh et ishto, one who inherits his wife, yachzir livnei mishpacha, he must give something back, okay, to the family. In other words, he has to deduct a certain amount of what he inherits, okay, to her family, okay. Vayinachel lehem min hadamim, and he deducts it at the yovim, okay, from the money he inherits. V'havinin ba, and he takes care of her. Mai kasava, what then is he have in mind?
Vinin ba, the Gemara has a kasha.
Right. Yeah, we got that. Mine's
right.
Kasavar. So what then is he thinking? I kasavar, if he's thinking Yerushat Habal deoraita, were he to be thinking that inheritance of the wife on the part of that husband is Torah, why then would he have to give any money back to his family?
He inherited it.
Right? That's right. Rabbanan. And if we're saying that the requirement that he receives, he inherits it, okay, based on rabbinical, damim mai avidatiha. With that money, what is he going to be doing with it? Va'amar Rav. And so Rav says as follows, Le'olam kisavar, Yerushat habal. All right, Rav argues, no, we all generally always think of the opinion that inheritance in that situation on the part of the husband is Torah ukigon shehorishto isto beit hakbara. And we're of the opinion in this kind of an example that his wife bequeathed to him the I'm going to call it says graveyard, but I think it really means the family plots.
Correct.
Embarrassment for a family to be buried in land that somebody else owns. Okay? Mishum pagam mishpacha, because that is a flaw on the part of the family to have to be buried in that manner. And more, Rabban. So therefore, I would say the rabbis taken this into consideration, okay, and to say, lishkol demei v'lahadeh. Okay, determine, take out the money that would have been for her plot, and you give that back, right? And so what is it then that they deduct from the money that he inherited? I'm going to phrase it that way. The value of the plot of his wife, Kiditan, as we taught elsewhere in a Mishnah, Amocher Kivro, V'derech, one who sells his burial plot, or the pathway to his burial plot, Uma'amado, or the place where the mourners would stand, or others would stand to extend condolences to the mourners, Home Hesped, or the place where they would stand, where they would give eulogy. Ba'in b'nei mishpacha v'kovrin oto ba'al korcho mishum pagam mishpacha. The members of his family can come and bury him, even against his will, okay, because otherwise there's a flaw, a defect looking at the family. Now, says the Gemara, Rav the Tame, the Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Kama. Rav here is explaining his rationale based from the perspective of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. That's what he's doing. V'lei, but he himself, lo savirale, he does not hold from that opinion. Okay, so we finish that particular text. Okay, our new Mishnah, okay, is going to go on. All right? Remember we've said, just a quick intro and then we roll. Remember we've said that when the husband, okay, dies, what is the very first chov, the first obligation that must be paid? The ksuba, okay? So keeping that in mind, keep that in mind as we now start this new Mishnah, okay? Mi shemet, when the man dies, v'hiniach isha, okay? And he leaves to his wife, namely the ksuba, uba'al chov, and the same man also owes a debt, v'yorshin, and there are also heirs, v'hayalo pikadon umalveh biyad echerim, and he also has a deposit or a loan in the hand of others. Okay, so he's got a lot of outstanding debts. Okay, but notice the text of our Mishnah lists the woman first. Okay, what happens? Nevertheless, we're going to have a machloket. Rabbi Tarfon Omer, Yinatnu lekoshel shebahen. One should give the money to the one who is the weakest. We're going to see what weakest is questioned shortly. Okay, Gemara is going to question, what does it mean weakest? Right, okay. Rabbi Akiva Omer, says Rabbi Akiva in our Mishnah, Ein merachamin badin. We don't bring mercy into a situation where we have to decide the legal justice in the situation. Ella yinatnu liyorshin, but rather, says Rabbi Akiva, we give the money to the heirs. Shekulan tzrichin shvua, because all of the others, I'm going to say, need to take some sort of oath. Ve'ein hayorshin tzrichin shvua, but the heirs do not need to take an oath. Okay, Mishnah continues. Hiniach peirot tlushin min hakarka. Okay, the deceased left produce that is removed from the ground, sitting there in his silo, a storage bin, let's say. Kol hakodem bahem zacheh behen. Whoever gets there first, collects it first, it's theirs. Zachta isha yoter miketubata. If the wife, the deceased, the widow, is the first one to claim it, and it is more than what her ketubah should be, okay? Or uba'al chov yoter al chovo, or the one to whom he owes a debt is the first to claim it, and it's more than the amount of money that's needed to pay back the debt. Hamotar, that which is surplus, okay? Rabbi Tarfon Omer, yinatnu lekoshel shabahen. Rabbi Tarfon again says it should be given to the one with the weakest argument. I'm sorry, with the one who's the weakest among them. I almost spoke too soon. Rabbi Akiva Omer, says Rabbi Akiva again, Ein merachamin badin. We do not use mercy or pity in regards to determining the law here. Ela yinatnu liyorshin, but rather we give it to the heirs. Shekulam tzrichim shvua. Okay, why? Because all of the others need an oath. Ve'ein hayorshin tzrichin shvua. And the heirs do not require an oath. Okay, now let's go with the Gemara. Lama li lemitne malve. Why was it necessary for our Mishnah to even bring in the example of a loan? Okay, lama li lemitne pikadon. Why was it necessary for our Mishnah to teach about a deposit? Okay, in other words, theoretically, you could have learned one from the other. Why did it have to mention both? Tzricha, we needed both, says the Gemara. De'itana malveh, because if it were such that we had talked about a loan situation, baha, in that case, ka'amar Rabbi Tarfon, we would have said like Rabbi Tarfon, mishum de malva lahotza'a nitna. Why? Because a loan is given to be able to have the money spent. That's the point we're saying. Okay? Aval pikadon, but in regards to a deposit, de'ite be'ene, where it's in its pure status. Okay? Ema modele le Rabbi Akiva. In that case, I might say, maybe Rabbi Tarfon would have acknowledged instead the view of Rabbi Akiva. Okay? In other words, there's no existing property in that case, and the only obligation is to pay back, okay? And therefore, what proof would you have? Okay? Ve'itanaha, and if I had only taught the case of the deposit, baha, in that situation, ka'amar Rabbi Akiva, that's where Rabbi Akiva would make his argument. Aval bahach, in the situation of the loan, ema modele the Rabbi Tarfon. I might say that he might acknowledge the view of Rabbi Tarfon and give it whoever has the weakest situation. Tzricha. That's why I needed to present both of those examples and include them in our Mishnah. However, now we get, right, Bob? Ma'ila koshel. What do we mean when we say that Rabbi Tarfon said you give it to the weakest? Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Chanina Omer. He says it follows: Lekoshel shebera'aya. It's the person who has the weakest proof. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, he says, Lekatubat Isha Mishum Chena. We say, no, you give it to the as payment of the ketubah for the woman because of her grace. In other words, to encourage the fact that people will find favor with her, and as a widow, other men will come and want to marry her. Okay?
Somewhat of a theory here. We said that the woman is first in line, and now it's saying that she's the weakest.
Right. So let's go on with the Gemara. Good point. Okay. Kitanai. And we'll say this seems to be similar to a machloket Tanaim, namely Rabbi Binyamin Omer, the koshel shebara'aya. According to Rabbi Binyamin, he says it's the one who has the weakest proof that they should be getting the money. Vahu kasher, and that person is still valid. Okay. Rabbi Elazar Omer, the ketubat isha mishum chena. And Rabbi Elazar says, no, the money should go for the woman, for her ksuba, because of her grace, her favor, that others will find and want to marry her as a widow. Now, we go on. Hiniach perot hatzlushim. They left, right, the produce that was removed from the ground of the tree, right? It's suggested it's in a silo or storage room. Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva, Ma'i Irya Mota. What does he have to say? Why does he discuss anything about a surplus? According to Rabbi Akiva, right? Who should get it? The Yorshim should get all of it. And so the Gemara is telling, Kulhu Nami Diyorshin Havu. Okay? That all of it also belong really to the heirs. And hachinami. It is indeed so, says the Gemara. Va'ide de amar Rabbi Tarfon muta. And since it was such that Rabbi Tarfon mentioned a surplus regarding Rabbi Akiva, Tana ihu nami motar. He also taught something about a surplus. Okay? All right, so what happens? We've got to go on now, right? And we see as follows, Rabbi Akiva. So if Rabbi Akiva said in that situation, right, that the heirs should receive all the money, we have a problem. Our problem is we said that there was a Baal Chov. There was somebody that husband owed money to. Can he seize the money? Or can he seize something else in order to get paid? So that's where we now continue on the top of the new Amud. Rabbi Akiva. Tfisa lo mahanya klau. Do we say then that seizure on the part of the debtor, okay? All right? In other words, seizure of the debtor's assets on the part of the creditor. That's what I really mean, okay? Does Rabbi Akiva not hold from that whatsoever? Okay? Amar Rava, says Rava Amar Rav Nachman, in the name of Rav Nachman, Vehu shetafas mechayim. In other words, they're arguing that Rabbi Akiva would accept a situation where the creditor seizes property of the debtor when the debtor is alive. Ula Rabbi Tarfon, whereas in regards to Rabbi Tarfon, the manche hecha, okay, would say, where would he put it? V'ravu Shmuel da amrei travaihu. And Rav and Shmuel, the two of them, said, V'hu shetziburin umunachin b'reshut harabim. What? That he said that this produce, right, that was separated, right, it was gathered up, it was piled up, and it was in a public location. Aval besimta. But were it to be in an alleyway, lo, then there would be no way that the creditor could seize it. For Rabbi Yochanan, V'Reish Lakish, the two of them say, the Amrei Travayu, afilu besimta. Even if it is in an alleyway, the creditor should be able to seize it. So what happens? Dun dine, we're going to get a whole series of stories here. Dun dine, Karabi Tarfon. There were the judges who wanted to decide a case in the perspective of Rabbi Tarfon. Okay? So what happened? Vahadre Reish Lakish La'ovada. And Reish Lakish came and he rejected their decision and overturned it. Okay? La'ovada minayu. Okay, he made them take it back. Amar le Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan then comments to Reish Lakish, Asita kashel Torah. You acted as if their law and their decision was as if it was a Torah decision. Lema bahakim iflagei. Shall we therefore say that this is what Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan were arguing about? Demar savar ta'a b'davar mishnah. That one was of the opinion that when one makes an error based on a Mishnaic statement, choser, he must recant it. Umar savar ta'a b'davar mishnah eino choser. And the others of the opinion, if one errs in understanding and interpreting the law based on a Mishnah, they do not have to recant it. Lo, no, that's not the case. The kuli alma ta'a b'davar Mishnah. No, everyone believes that when an error is made in interpreting a Mishnah, choser, one must recant it. Vahacha bahakim iflagei. And here, this is what they're arguing about. Mar savar halacha Rabbi Akiva mechavero v'lo mirabo. One master holds that in a machloket, the law is like Rabbi Akiva regarding his colleague, but not like his teacher. Umar savar halacha afilu mirabo. And the other holds that in a machloket between Rabbi Akiva and his teacher, the law is still like Rabbi Akiva. Ve'ebayat ema. And if you want, I would say as follows. The kuli alma halacha Rabbi Akiva mechavero v'lo mirabo. No, everybody actually understands and agrees that the law is like Rabbi Akiva when he disagrees with a colleague, but not with his teacher. Vahacha bahakim iflagei. And here, this is what they're arguing about. Mar savar Rabbi Tarfon Rabbo Hava. One is of the opinion that Rabbi Tarfon was Rabbi Akiva's teacher. Umar savar Chavero Hava. And the other holds that Rabbi Tarfon was his colleague. The Ibayat Ema. Or if you want, maybe I would say the following. The Kuli Alma Chavero Hava. That everybody agrees that Rabbi Tarfon was actually his colleague. Vahacha bahakim iflagei. And here, this is what they're arguing about. Mar savar halacha itmar. One was of the opinion that it was actually stated that the law was in the name of Rabbi Akiva. Umar savar matin itmar. And the other was of the opinion, no, that the law simply was to be inclined in the direction of Rabbi Akiva, but not specifically stated. New story. Kreve de Rabbi Yochanan. There were relatives of Rabbi Yochanan. Tafus para diyatme besimta. And when the father died, these creditors seized a cow that belonged to the orphans when it was in an alleyway. Atu lakame de Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, they came before Rabbi Yochanan, and I'm assuming it was the Yatumim or a representative of them. Okay, they came before Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Lahu, and he said to them, I'm sorry, just the opposite. The creditors came before Rabbi Yochanan, okay, and they said to him, they told him what happened. Amar Lahu, and he said to them, Shapir tafsutuha. Well done that you seized that cow. In other words, to pay what their father owed you. Atu lakame de Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. They came before Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. Okay, what happened? Amar Laho, he said to the creditors, Zilu ahador, go back and return the cow to the orphans. What did they do? Atu lakami de Rabbi Yochanan. They went back again before Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, and they complained what Reish Lakish had told them. Amar Lahu, and he says to them, Ma what can I do? Shekenegdi chaluk alai, that one who is of equal status as I disagrees with me. So Rabbi Yochanan can't do anything further there. Okay, another story. This one a little more in depth. Hahu Bakra. There was a certain herdsman, Diyatme, that was taking care of the animals that belonged to orphans. Detafse Torah mine, and creditors seized an ox from him, right? Baal Chov, the creditor, Amar, Michais, okay, Tfisna Le, Michayim, I'm sorry, Michayim Tfisna Le, that we seized this animal while the father was still alive from him, right? Ubakra Amar, and the herdsman said, La'achar mita tafse, that it was after the death of the father that they seized him. Atu lakame de Rav Nachman, they came before Rav Nachman. Amarle, he said to him. Okay, so this is Rav Nachman saying to the herdsman, Eat lach sahade de tafse, do you have witnesses, okay, that it was taken from him? In other words, that's when they took it, after the death. Amarle lav, he answered no, he did not have that. Okay, what happens? Amarle, he said to him, Migo diachol meimar lakuachu biyadi, since it's possible for those who now have the ox in hand, that they could have used the argument of Migo, that they could have come up with an answer and said that we purchased the animal from him. Yechol nami lemeimar mechayim tafisnale, that it's possible for them now that they've said that they seized the animal while he was alive, since they could have come up with the Migo with a better answer, okay? Therefore, we are going to believe them over the herdsman, okay? V'ha'amar Reish Lakish, but did not Reish Lakish say in the following example, okay, regarding that situation, Hagodrot ein lahem chazakah, animals. We're talking here about moving livestock, okay? Like sheep, goats, things like that, okay? That are kept in pens, okay? Okay? Those animals, there can be no presumption of ownership. Shani Torah, but an ox is different. The Mesira Leroeh, because that is given directly over to a shepherd. Okay? in that case. So there you could presume a certain amount of presumption of ownership in that case. Okay? New story. All right, another one. All right? In this case.
Don't the orphans have to have a what is it, apotropos
Normally they should.
to take care of these problems?
Should. Normally they should. Right? That's why one was appointed, normally, in case there were issues. Right? Okay, wait till we get now this example, and we'll pretty much finish up with this. Okay, the Bey Nasiya, members of the household of the Nasi. Okay, remember everybody, the Nasi is the big guy, all right, in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, Tafus Amta Diyatme Mesimta. They seized a servant woman who served orphans while she was in an alleyway. Yativ Rabbi Abahu, v'Rabbi Chanina bar Papi, v'Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. These three sages were sitting in learning. V'Yativ Rabbi Abba Gabayu, and Rabbi Abba also happened to be sitting nearby them. Okay, what happened? Amar laho shapir tafsituha. Okay, he says to them, to the members of the, I'll call it royal household, so to speak, well done that you seized this woman as payment for a debt that their father owed. Amar laho Rabbi Abba. Rabbi Abba says, Mishum debei nesiya ninhu, because the creditors were members of the royal household. Mechanfitu laho, you're flattering them. Vahadun daine karabi tarfu. But here, one should be able to make the judgment according to Rabbi Tarfon. Vahadre reish lakish uvdaminayu. Okay, as was done by Reish Lakish when he rejected, right? He made them change their decision. Okay, so that's the case. So he's citing that, the case that was the point. Now, we go one further. Yimar bar Chashu, that's the person's name. Havu masek bezuze bahahu gavra. This Yimar bar Chashu owed a certain amount of money to a certain person. And what happened? Shchiv, Yimar bar Chashu died. Vishavik arba, and what he left as his main possession was a boat. Okay. Amarle lishluche, the creditor said to his representative, Zil tafsa nihale, go and seize it and bring it to him. In other words, bring it to me. The representative then, Azal tafsa, he went and seized it. Pagu be Rav Papa, v'Rav Huna b'rei de Rav Yoshua. Rav Papa and Rav Huna met the representative. Amrule, and they said to him, At tofes the Baal Chov b'makom shechav la'achirim. You are seizing property for a creditor in a situation where other people are also owed money. Va'amar Rabbi Yochanan, and did not Rabbi Yochanan say, Hatofes lebal chov b'makom shechav la'achirim, one who seizes property for a single creditor, I'm going to say, in a place where there are multiple creditors, we'll just go over a tiny bit. Lo kana, okay, it is not valid, right? So what did those rabbis do? Tafsuhu inhu. They themselves seized the boat. Rav Papa mimalach meluche. Rav Papa was rowing it with a oar. Rav Huna b'rei de Rav Yoshua mimtach la ba'ashla. and he was pulling it with a rope. Okay, and that's where we're going to stop today, because it goes into more discussion on that scene tomorrow when we'll pick that up. Okay, right? Just to tell you, that next line says, Ma amar ana kanina la lakula, umar amar ana kanina la lakula. Each one claimed that they owned now the whole boat. Okay. So we might jokingly say they're in a boatload of trouble.
Yeah, you sell it, you split the money.
Okay? All right. Yasha koach, Ruben. Okay?
Shkoyach.
All right. Okay. All right.
You don't have cookies.